Hello, hello. I'm Strider, your host here at Author in the Headlights, and I want to thank you for joining us. And as I always ask, if you haven't yet subscribed, why don't you do so and you won't miss a single one of our episodes. Today we've got Jeanne Matthews. Good morning, Jeanne.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. Now, we just met a couple weeks ago at the Chanticleer Authors Conference,
I think we
and
both had a glass of wine in our hand.
well, we were there in spirit and in heart. And you also won a grand prize there for Murder and Mayhem.
Yes, it was the sequel to my first historical novel,
This
and it
thing.
was very exciting and quite a surprise.
And obviously well earned because that is not easy to do. There are lots of mystery authors there. And this one, Garnick and Paschal, right?
Pascal.
Pascal. All right. Garnick and Pascal. Now that's a historic mystery series.
Yes.
Go
I
ahead.
said it just after the Civil War in Chicago, which was quite a toddling town at the time. Lots of crime, lots of uh, new industry, lots of immigrants, lots of Irish pouring in, and lots of bawdy houses.
Well, you are talking about the late 1800s, and that was pretty familiar everywhere at that point.
Yes.
But the unexpected part is one after the Civil War, and this is with a former Confederate prisoner. And now the interesting part is Quinn is your female detective, and that is not necessarily common in the late 1800s.
No, she, this is a very sad thing to say in some ways, but she was lucky because she was a widow. And a married woman at that time was under the law of coverture. And so she had no identity other than her husband's name, and she couldn't own anything. In a way, it made the prostitutes freer, and widows were freer. And of course, divorce was very rare.
Yes.
But she is a Union War widow, very young, but her husband died in the war, and she is um, she is impoverished. He died intestate and left her with nothing, and she is um, forced to live with her in-laws, who are um, very disdainful of the Irish, and she is Irish. And so she wants to escape, and she does, and she finds this ex-Confederate prisoner of war who's been released from the famous prisoner camp there, Camp Douglas. It was the Andersonville of the North. A lot of men died there, and he was lucky. He got out, but he had nothing to go home to. His wife had died while he was in prison, and so they form a detective agency.
And there you go. There's the start of your story.
And there
Now
you
that's
go.
Devil by the Tail and
Yes.
If Two Are Dead. That's the two books in that series at the moment. Now, which one won the prize?
If two are dead.
So that's the newest one, correct?
Yes, it just so happened that in 1867, Charles Dickens made his second trip to America. And at some point between Liverpool and Boston, he lost his diary. And his diary had some very scandalous things in it. And he was afraid he would lose his public, his adoring public. He was a real rock star at the time. Everybody just was thrilled by Charles Dickens' novels.
Hmm.
And so, as it turns out, his brother had lived for many years in Chicago and died there. And his widow, Bertha, was Dickens' chief suspect for having somehow manipulated the theft of his diary. So, in my imagination, he visits Chicago, and I have a pair of detectives there.
So naturally.
So naturally.
Well, obviously, it makes a good story. Great history there. And now, did you have to study up on that historical venue in order to make it that historical mystery?
Oh, sure. I did a lot of research, and the research was great fun. Um, there were there were so many amazing characters who were in and out of Chicago at the time. Um, and um, Even Victoria Woodhull got a divorce in Chicago. She was the woman who ran for president in 1871 against Ulysses Grant. So there were all of these characters, and it was just it was just a delight to learn more about them.
Interesting time of history. Yeah.
The actual inspiration for the character of Quinn, who goes by the I don't know, I guess you would say the nom de guerre. Her professional name is Detective Paschal, but the inspiration for her was that she is the daughter of a Fenian extremist. Chicago was a hotbed for Fenianism at the time, and I did not know that an army from the United States made up of veterans from the Confederate Army and the Union Army invaded Canada to try to hold Canada hostage and force it to cede control of Ireland, give Ireland its independence. So all this happened just about the time that I was setting the story. So
Wow. Interestingly, I didn't know that, and I'm a pretty good history buff.
yeah, it wasn't in my history book. They had several raids, and the first one was in 1866, and they continued through to 1871. And the it inspired Canada to actually form an army and a security defense.
Wow.
But yeah,
Now, that isn't your only series. You've got the Dinah Pelerin International Mysteries also, which is a
yes,
five-book series.
yes,
And that is now modern, not history. Well, I suppose history, whatever. But it hits all over the world. I mean, you're talking about Australia, and done books in Hawaii, one's in the Norwegian Arctic. You've got them in the Greek Isles and Berlin, Germany, just all over the world.
yeah. Well, I um, Pelerin is French for pilgrim, and so I wanted her to be the things I love most: travel, mystery, and a lot of mythology. So Dinah, the protagonist, like me, comes from Georgia. She comes from a place called Needmore, which sort of was what I felt about growing up there. So she wants to travel and see the world. She's a wannabe cultural anthropologist, so she's fascinated by mythology. And in Australia, she's interested in dream time and she has an extremely unreliable family. And I think the best blurb I ever got for any of those books, someone said that for that I think it was Matthews proves that the family is the very best source for both betrayal and hilarity. And her family is constantly betraying her, and they are constantly hilarious. They track her all over the world. And so it was also a very fun series to write.
Oh, that's cool. And it does bounce all over. So that is a great series. So two international mysteries and historical mysteries. Um, so now you started your most recent series. How far do you plan on taking that? And trilogy, four, five,
Well,
six?
actually, I may ask you for some help. I skipped ahead to 1871 and the Great Chicago Fire.
Hmm.
I understand you have been a fireman,
Yep, certainly was 25 years of that. Yeah.
and there was a terrible drought all through the Midwest in 1871. The Peshtigo fires, 2,500 people died in the fire. But Chicago, I think only 300 people died in the fire. The whole city was razed. It was just incinerated. But they had all the newspapers. And they also had a lot of Irish that they didn't like. And so naturally, they blamed it on a lady named O'Leary who was milking her cows in the barn and tipped over a lantern. So I'm I'm carrying forward into 1871 with the same two characters, but in this one, I'm hoping to bring in a little bit more of the Fenian history.
All right. And they'll do a little bit of digging to figure out things. And I think it'll be a great hook because everybody knows about the fire and, O'Leary's cow and all of that. So little twists and it'll be a good hook for people to grab a book to read and enjoy.
I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got a next one coming up. And by the way, when that happens, please let me know.
Well, I'm a very slow writer, so it'll be a while.
All right, that works. So am I. Now, they can get a hold of you, of course, through DermanPublishing.com through that, but you can also, you've got a web page, JeanneMatthews.com for going to
Yes.
your site. You've got Twitter at JM Mysteries,
Hmm.
so they can get a hold of you that way. And your books will be available, as I say, at the bookstore at DermanPublishing.com, so they can find you there. And of course, you're on other places too, and Amazon and around. They can find them. They'll
I
get to
can be
you.
found.
uh, I want to thank you, and a little short today, but this is fun. And we had fun at the conference, and you were a grand prize winner. And that carries a lot of weight to readers to say, well, I don't just think she's good. She is good. And I love your cover.
Great. Thank you so much.
Jeanne, until we meet again, and until you let me know you've got another book coming out, I'll say thank you for joining us today at Author in the Headlights, sponsored by DermanPublishing.com. Got to put that part in there.
Well, it
And
was delightful talking with you.
good. And for the rest of you, we hope to see you again next week. We do this weekly. So thank you so much, all of you.